Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. Karamah, Muslim Women Lawyers for Human Rights, is here to share with you our views and general recommendations on the economic consequences of marriage and its dissolution, a new CEDAW Concept Paper. Let me say a few words of introduction about Karamah. Karamah is a women's organization which is devoted to women's rights and human rights in general, but focuses at the present time on the rights of Muslim women. Our approach to Muslim women's rights arises from within the context of the religion. We take our religion seriously, and we believe that with proper understanding, it would provide Muslim women with the various rights that are due to modern women in this century. Today, we would like to look at the CEDAW document that has the concept paper that has been put forth and critique it from our human rights perspective. And I might say that our perspective is not narrow. We do not believe that Muslim women's issues are very narrow. We believe it's part and parcel of much broader issues, such as, for example, issues of governance in various states, including international law of governance. In other words, just as we argue that democracy is desirable in the various states, we also believe democracy and democratic process is critical in international arenas where laws are being considered for passage. Since many of these laws touch upon the Islamic religion and Muslim women's rights, it is therefore imperative that the Muslim woman's voice be heard. We are here to make at least one such voice heard with our hopefully constructive and important comments about the document. I would like to introduce Ms. Sarah Saeed, who is hosting this event in partnership with Karamah. Women in Islam will introduce themselves. We are very close partners together. We're headquartered in Washington and they're headquartered in New York. I'm Aziza Al-Hibri, the chair of the board of Karamah. So, Sarah?
Thank you very much, Dr. Al-Hibri. I would like to welcome you all to this very important briefing concerned with preserving the rights of Muslim women internationally. And currently, as Dr. Al-Hibri mentioned, currently under debate within CEDAW is a paper that speaks about marriage and dissolution. And it's really important for us as Muslim women to articulate a response to this paper. And I think that we need to begin this conversation by thanking the OIC and Ambassador Wahab and his dedicated staff for helping us to organize this gathering. And I'd also like to frame this conversation within the context of human rights, but also importantly within the context of interfaith dialogue and education. I think CEDAW provides a context for us to have a conversation on an international scale about the rights of women and how we can preserve those rights within the framework, listening to the voices that women themselves provide for solutions. So I'm very happy to be here today welcoming Karamah to present its thoughts on this important issue. And I'd like to introduce Dr. Al-Hibri more completely than she introduced herself, as well as Sarah Islam, who will be talking about Karamah and their response to this paper. Aziza Al-Hibri is a professor of law at the T.C. Williams School of Law at University of Richmond. And she's the founding editor of Hypatia Journal for Feminist Philosophy, founder of Karamah, Muslim Women Lawyers for Human Rights. She's also a Fulbright scholar and has written extensively on issues of Islam and democracy, Muslim women's rights, and human rights in Islam. She has also guest edited a special volume on Islam by the Journal of Law and Religion. And she's completing a book on the Islamic marriage contract. Again, this relates to things they'll be talking about in their presentation. She's also traveled extensively throughout the Muslim world and provided her expert opinion and consulted with many, many women globally on how they can themselves work within the Islamic framework to improve their status. And she served on the board of directors and advisory boards of numerous nonprofits. So I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Al-Hibri.
Thank you for this undeserved recognition, Sarah. And I would like now to introduce, without further delay, Sarah Islam. Sarah Islam is a doctoral student at Princeton University, and she is also the director of Islamic jurisprudence at Karamah. She had spent long hours studying very seriously the concept paper and consulting with members of the Karamah board and leadership in developing this paper. But she is basically the lead person on this, and she knows it inside out. So I think we'd better let her voice come through, and then we will all answer any questions you might have. Sarah?
Hello everyone, can you hear me? Okay, great. So what I'll be doing today is basically I'll be offering you first a summary of our position on the new CEDAW Concept Paper, Economic Consequences of Marriage and its Dissolution. And then what I'll be doing is I'll be going back through specific parts of the actual position, of the actual concept paper and our comments on them. So the CEDAW concept note states that inequality in the family is the most damaging of all forces in women's lives, underlying all other aspects of discrimination and disadvantage, and is sheltered by ideologies and cultures. Religious, customary, and state laws allow women to be pressured or forced into marriage too young and against their will, ending their education and starting their child rearing long before their bodies and minds are ready, provide wives with limited property rights or none at all during marriage and upon divorce or widowhood, and reinforce the privilege of husbands and fathers to control women's mobility, economic welfare, and family decision-making. Karamah believes that it is true that family law is in dire need of reform worldwide, be this in South America, the Middle East, or the United States, especially in terms of the rights of women. Inequality in the family damages the lives of many women, and religious, customary, and state laws often do contribute to such inequalities. However, this is certainly not always the case, nor is such discrimination necessarily uniform based on a specific religion or culture. Rather, it is poverty and the lack of economic prosperity which has the most damaging effect upon women in most cases as compared to any other factor. Poverty correlates directly with the practice of forced marriage, limited educational opportunities for women, and limited property rights within the context of marriage over all other factors. This fact has been demonstrated empirically and has been known by the social science and legal community for a very long time. The idea that the implementation of a uniform civil code would be the best step forward for women's progress ignores the legal and empirical reality that many religious legal systems often do hold room for legitimate interpretations which accommodate and promote the rights of women. It is important to have a pragmatic approach in moving forward in order to minimize any possible damage that could be caused to the lives of women in the present, while at the same time pushing for reforms which could improve their opportunities in the future. It is important that among other initiatives, we work within recognized legal systems, Islamic law being one of them, to develop reasonable, functional solutions which are also viewed as legitimate by the societies in which women live. It also allows us to work within currently existing systems which already hold the potential to adopt norms protecting women's rights as opposed to allowing such systems to be continuously dominated by interpreters who may not hold women's empowerment as a priority. Policy recommenders must keep in mind that if the goal of CEDAW's recommendations is indeed to better the situation of women, then they should be willing to do that which will actually, not rhetorically, improve their opportunities. Advocating only for a uniform civil code in light of differing socio-cultural contexts is not always the most effective or useful means of achieving greater rights and opportunities for women. Achieving women's empowerment involves understanding the laws and context of a given region based on input offered from the very women who are a part of these regions and are familiar with the de facto realities. In all cases, it is the duty of policy recommenders to examine such laws from a comprehensive, nuanced, and holistic perspective in order to truly understand the aims of such laws and the actual impact they have. Failing to do so can often result in working against the rights of women in many